Good morning and welcome to the Red Mic. Happy Monday. Hope you had a good weekend. Glad you're here today. These Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons I've picked up from 25 years in public service, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message: what's behind the elusive work life balance? Um, I think it's a combination of having a boss or a job that gives you that flexibility. What do I mean by that? Well, it was recently an article on LinkedIn about Alina Vandenberg and that she was named CEO of the year. I don't remember who named her CEO of the year. It could have been completely made up. I don't know. May have been a one of those LinkedIn accomplishments. Hey, I was just named this. Well, who named you that? Well, I did. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Not that I have a problem with self-aggrandizement, but man, it's all over the place on LinkedIn. Anyway, I'm not disputing that she's clearly accomplished. She's CEO and CMO and chief bottle washer at a tech company called Chili Piper. Early in her career, she worked for Steve Jobs. Anyway, but the thing on LinkedIn focused on the fact that in her acceptance speech, she had one young child at her feet and the other one was propped on her hip. Clearly, toddler didn't need to be left alone. And I don't know if I don't know, it's irrelevant to me if she's married. If she is married, if her partner is, an active sharer of the roles or anything. But the whole article was about her having her children on stage with her and how empowered she was. And well, of course she's empowered. She's the CEO. It's her company. Um, and it resonated with a lot of people, especially the writer, who saw it as a powerful affirmation of the possibility to balance a serious career, successful career in motherhood. And yeah, I get that, but I also she's the boss. What she says goes. Um, and it talked about a little bit of her personal journey and things she faced as a woman in leadership roles and the obstacles. Well, everybody's going to have obstacles. And again, not discounting anything that she's done or accomplished, but again, she's the boss. She has the ability to say that, and I don't know if she did this or not, that having the crib in the office is a good thing to do or it's allowed or whatever it is. Um, I do know that having that flexibility at her age, and I'm assuming she's early 50s based on the fact that uh, in 2009, she said in 2009 she was 24. Well, let's do the math. Come on. Um, and she, at the age that she is now, has a toddler and the little one on her hip and the one that, one's running around all over the place. Um, Whereas, some of your, some of her contemporaries of that same age, their kids are all grown out of the house. Some even have grandkids. Some people I went to high school with already have grandkids. In fact, one already has a great grandkid, which just boggles my mind. And a couple of instances from my personal life. One involves me, one involves my wife. I was in a role, and my younger child, my son Daniel, um, it was spring break, and despite our best efforts, we could not find anywhere for him to be on a couple of days during spring break. And I was in a leadership role, and I had some people on my team that had kids, and they had already planned on taking the week off. And, probably I should have too, but nope, for a couple hours during the day, he was at Camp Dad. Um, I basically gave him, books and a iPad, and he was in a corner of my office, very close to my desk, and I had my door shut most of the day. And he, of course, was bored and he slept a lot, and it was probably unfair to him, but we did the best we could. But the key to that was I had a boss that was okay with it. Okay. Um, a completely different story involving Daniel was when he was still an infant in a child, an infant carrier. He was, he wasn't walking anywhere. Well, we lived in Wichita Falls, and a couple of times a year in Wichita Falls, you got to know this thing about Wichita Falls. It's on the border of Oklahoma and Texas. And a couple of times a year, it will be both the hottest place in Texas, or alternatively, the coldest, not just Texas, hottest place in America, or it'll be the coldest place in America. Well, on this particular day, um, again, Daniel was an infant, and Wichita Falls was more or less iced and snowed in. And another thing about, well, if you've never been to Texas during the winter, if there's even a drop of ice or snow, it has severe negative impact, because by and large, Texans we can't drive on it. We can't exist when those sort of conditions happen. But my wife was in a role that had, frankly, bad benefits. She the only paid leave she got when she had Daniel was vacation that she had saved up. Um, and despite the fact that this boss um, had kids of his own, and oh, just a grade A jerk, right? So, ice and snow, we lived in between where our sitter was and where the job was. Now, granted, it's Wichita Falls, it's not very big. Ordinarily, it wasn't a big deal, but with ice and snow all over the place, there was no way she was going to be able to get all the way to where the regular sitter was, and then back to work, and then back to pick up the sitter before the pickup deadline in the afternoon. So she evaluated her situation. She said, "You know what? I'm in an office in a remote part of the building. I'm just going to take Daniel with me. He sleeps most of the day. I won't have to, pack food for him. We'll have that all taken care of, yada, yada." Shouldn't have been a problem, right? You would think, if you had a reasonable boss. But this guy just laid into her. Can't believe you brought your baby with you. Uh, I expect better from people on my management team. She was marketing director. I expect better from people on my management team, yada, yada, yada. And what it was, we later found out that it was some of the people in the business's call center were giving him a hard time because, they had kids too. Um, that's not my wife's fault. That's not my wife's problem. It's the fact that he had an environment that A, was borderline abusive to mothers and parents. Um, and B, he didn't have the nerve or the guts to evaluate himself and figure out, yeah, you know what? This is a unique situation. If y'all need to, we'll make something work. No. It was his way or the highway, and thankfully this was right about the time that we were preparing to move from Wichita Falls to Austin. So we just swallowed hard, and a couple months later, she was gone and it was all over, and bye bye. But imagine if it was 20 years later and she was the boss. I can't imagine in a million years that she would have made those same decisions. So the work life balance really comes down to what's the culture? Who's the boss? How do the culture and that boss's attitudes play? Alina Vandenberg, she's the boss. She's got it made. No one's going to tell her, hey, boss, do you really want to bring your kids around? Yeah, I do. There's the door. See ya. My situation, even though ultimately he was a boss that I ended up not wanting to work for in that particular instance, he was aces. My wife, she would not work for that former boss ever again in a million years, regardless of how much money was on the table. Because when it came down to the brass tacks, he didn't support his people. He wasn't encouraging. He didn't lift people up. He just saw an opportunity to belittle. Don't be that guy. Help your people where you can. Again, the whole Norm and Sam question in Cheers. Think to yourself what this scene really means. Norm, I'm thinking about adding food to the bar. What do you think about that? Is it going to change the price of beer? It shouldn't. Then what do I care? Make those same applications wherever you can. At the end of the day, if it's not going to impact someone's ability to do their job, if it's not going to impact other people doing their jobs, make those accommodations where you can. Be the kind of boss that would celebrate someone going up on stage with that toddler on their hip and another one running underfoot. That's today's Red Mike message. I hope you found it helpful or interesting. I hope you'll be back again tomorrow. And again, I hope you had a really good weekend. We had a Halloween party. I was one version of Beetlejuice. My wife was another version of Beetlejuice. She was in the black and white stripes. I was in the maroon wedding suit. And together we were Beetlejuice. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. We love Halloween, love dressing up, all of that. So I hope you have a good day. I hope you'll be back again tomorrow. Please give me a like, a follow, and a share. And remember, life is short. Drink the bourbon.